Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today we're going to talk with SlyBlackFox about the current state of Dead Space. And we can talk a lot about like anything Dead Space, but I most importantly wanted to focus mainly on, I guess if you want to start with Dead Space 2, the remake of that, you want to have your thoughts on that real quick?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man. I've got a lot to say about a remake for Dead Space 2.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, Dead Space is a franchise. I mean, I really, really hope that they're going to make a Dead Space 2 remake, obviously. If not, maybe, I don't know if they'd go on to a Dead Space 4, considering they didn't, or they really haven't ported 2 and 3 to modern platforms outside of, obviously, compatible to the Xbox One, but I think it would be nicer if it was on most as in, like, PlayStation 5, because they don't have it there.
hmm
But I think it'll be really interesting where they'll take it from here. I mean, we could talk about a lot of things in terms of Dead Space in general. But I guess what is your thoughts on like what do you think they're gonna go from here? Because Dead Space's first remake was a couple years back, and I know that the Visceral game or not what
Yeah,
am I
like
Visceral Games. I'm going back to Visceral Games. God damn it. Who was the person that
it's Motive, right?
yeah, Motive Studios. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I went back to Visceral Games. Like, well, that doesn't
Oh, you're
exist
good.
anymore. No, but like,
There's too many companies to keep track of, honestly.
I know I can't just bring up EA in general. Like that'd be something else. But yeah, Moda Studios though they're working on I think an Iron Man project along with some other things. Oh no, Battlefield. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess how
Yep.
do you
Yep,
feel
that was
about
it.
that?
Well, based on the video that you put out that I saw too, and I started digging around. I
Yeah,
didn't know this actually. So, Motive's doing. You said the Iron Man game and Battlefield.
yeah, they're
Um,
making an upcoming one. Yeah.
So that's probably going to have them locked for like the next 5 years or so, right? Two games from one studio. If they're doing them both at the same time, that's probably going to take up their immediate time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but and I feel like this is a very big but. In that interview, or there was some kind of like post on like Twitter or something that got pulled up that you had in your video.
Yeah.
It didn't say that they weren't going to make one. Like, and that was very specific that he said that. So there is a very big chance of hope right now that has gotten much bigger because there for a while a lot of people were like, "Oh no, Dead Space 2, it's dead, it's dead. They're not going to do it. Dead Space didn't sell enough." Like that's what everybody was saying everywhere on the internet. So it's looking up now, but I don't see that for like the next 5 or so years at least if they're doing two other games.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely agree with you. Do you think like maybe they're? Do you think maybe they don't have it necessarily in developer right now, but they have it in like what is it like the background? Maybe like they have it opened to maybe developing it in the future, but they haven't really caught on to it yet. You think?
I
Or
mean, I I can't remember, so don't don't even quote me on this, but there
yeah,
was an interview that I saw, and it was one of the developers who made the remake of
yeah.
Dead Space. And he did say that there was a plan to go ahead and do the second one, and EA just
Hmm.
put like a stop to it. So there may already be a framework for that game. It is just not being like worked on intently by the company right now. They're probably just focused on the games that they've already announced, and that may just be kind of sitting in the corner right now, just waiting to get touched. I think they've used a lot of assets from the first game. It would be very easy to port a lot of that over because it the second game does take place in a different location than the first. But
Hmm.
I mean, as far as the character models go, Isaac's going to be very similar. They're just going to have skin changes, and then the necromorphs, a lot of them carried over to the second game from the first. So they've got a lot of the work done for them if they use stuff from the game they already did.
Yeah, for sure. I get what you mean. I think that's definitely one of the best, or I should say, better approaches that recent Resident Evil games do. Is that despite the remake or what am I saying, remake, multiple remakes, and the newer 7 and 8 and 9 or whatever, they do a lot of reusing of
Yeah,
assets, and it is. Well, I mean, it's noticeable, but it's not like unnoticeable. Like it's not nobody really cares. It works very well, and I think one of the positives with something like Dead Space 2 remake, if they do it, is what exactly what you said. And I think that, I mean, I don't. I do really hope that they are working on it actively. I mean, we really don't know that for sure, but we hope that they are doing that. But crap, I forgot what I was gonna
They
say.
could be doing that without us. They could be doing it without us knowing. Who knows? Maybe
I
they
sure
don't want
hope
to say
so.
anything.
I really, really hope so. Do you think that if they did a Dead Space 2 remake, do you expect them to do a Dead Space 3 remake and make a lot of changes, or?
Ooh. So Dead Space 3, not my favorite game.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's a lot of flaws with that game.
Yeah.
So, and in the interview that I did see from one of the guys who worked on Dead Space, he said that if they were going to do a 3, the plan was to change the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like a
and they were
complete
going to edit it
overhaul.
because Dead Space 3, when it came out, it was rushed, and EA forced the people who were designing the game to put a lot of stuff in there that they didn't want to, such as
Hmm.
multiplayer aspects that wasn't even planned on from the original, but they told them to. And
Yeah, for sure.
so when you got a company who's basically telling you how to make your game, that's gonna pull away from the vision of what the game could be. So I don't even think the Dead Space 3 that we got is the Dead Space 3 that the developers wanted to make. I think it just ended up being that because of, some EA people who really just wanted that to happen. But yeah, I think they'd have to tweak it a little bit because it's definitely the harder of the three to get through as far as me. Like I think that's the only game I've not like beaten multiple times. I think I beat it one time and said never again.
Yeah. I'd ag-
That's my stance on Dead Space 3. But
I'd agree with you. I like. I'm gonna be honest here. I'll be completely. I'll be completely honest here. I do have the. I don't think. I always say it's like a controversial opinion. I really don't know. I don't hate Dead Space 3 as much as a lot of people do, and I think the reason for that is because I thought it was gonna be extremely bad. I don't like it necessarily. Still, it's definitely my least favorite.
Mhm.
I think there is enjoyable moments in there. I do like several areas, maybe not several areas, but there's some areas that I do really like the Antarctica looking. I don't think it's Antarctica. You know what I mean, right? Like the icy
Well, yeah,
area in that game.
it's a frost planet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I call it Antarctica, but it's really cool. There's some cool things in there. I think what takes it back the most for me is definitely like most of the flaws that some people are gonna bring up, especially like with the story, but mostly like in my opinion, I think it's really the fucking guns, the gunplay and the microtransaction, and all that shit that they added in
Yeah.
there. It's like that makes it a
I
bigger mess.
I think it, yeah.
And the
The
atmosphere.
guns were, and it was a lot more open. It didn't feel like, I feel like a key point in both Dead Space 1 and 2 is it's very like almost claustrophobic.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
it's a tight environment. You're on a ship or a space station. So you're like in small corridors or like enclosed areas, and big areas are very far and few between in that game. Like you do get
Hmm.
some, but there aren't like tons of them. And Dead Space 3 just felt very open. Like there was just a lot of room to run and like move around, and it felt more action oriented than it did on the scare aspect of it for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you. I mean, okay. While we're at it, actually, I want to ask you real quick. I don't. Maybe you don't have a personal preference, but which one do you like more, Dead Space 1 or 2?
My bias goes to 2
Really?
because when I first played the original Dead Space when I was a wee little boy,
Yeah.
uh, I was at a friend's house and it scared me too much and I couldn't do it.
Hmm.
And then what was it? 2011 came around. I was at that time I think like 17, so
Yeah.
I was an older teenager now, and I liked more horror movies and games and that kind of nature. So Dead Space 2 came around, and I think I got it on release,
Oh
and
wow.
I just stayed up playing it all night on Xbox with like my friends on party chat. We were both like talking to each other as
Yeah.
we were going through story for the first time. Oh, that was the scariest game I've ever played. Like at that
Yeah.
point in my life, it horrified me, but I wanted to keep going. And
Hmm.
oh, as far as like they go, I think I could replay that game at least like once or twice a year, every year.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, probably one of the most nostalgic games for you. I bet. I mean, like I feel like when I think back at
Absolutely.
the 360, I do like for some reason I mean I'm a big Halo fan, so I think back at that obviously a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
But I do
Oh
or
yeah.
Bioshock or something. But like I always think back
Oh
of
yeah.
like Dead Space back in 2008 or Dead Space 2, but specifically Dead Space 1. And I do prefer personally Dead Space 1. I like the atmosphere more. I don't like Dead Space 2 as much as a lot of people I know crazy. But like I like Dead Space 2.
Yeah.
I think it has the most iconic moments in the franchise. Like, you know, there's very specific ones like, you know, the eyeball scene or there's like the daycare, and I really
Oh
like the
man.
variety that it adds to it. But I felt like what made Dead Space 2 not necessarily scary or anything, because I still think the first one was in my opinion at least the scariest. But I think Dead Space 2 always felt like the most intense of them all, in my opinion. Like especially with
Yeah.
what are they called? The stalkers? They're like the guys that run at you. I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah. I
Stalkers?
feel like they raised the stakes on you having to figure things out really fast in a
Yeah,
situation
like the
on Dead
guys on the
Space
wall.
2.
What were those
Yes.
things? I hated those things, but you're always
Oh,
aware. Or you have to be aware, I
yeah.
mean.
Yeah, there's a lot of enemies in that game that really suck. And then especially, I mean, it's been out for a while, so this is a little bit of a spoiler, but that thing that
Hmm.
stalks you at the end, how they had a version of that in the first game, but they bring it back in the second game at the end, except it's like black instead of
Yeah.
uh oh man. That thing gives me nightmares to this day with it chasing me around, and you shoot it and it just regenerates, and there's no engine around for you to burn it up with.
That's crazy. I get you there. I mean, do you think that out of Dead Space 2, if they were to remake Dead Space 2, Dead Space 1's remake added a lot, obviously, and it's like a lot of it, they
Yes.
added like a lot of aspects from Dead Space 2 and 3 in it. Like, what would you say, maybe not added from like 3 or taken from 3, what would you think they would add if they did a remake of 2 that you would like to see, I mean?
They they like opened up some areas when they did the first remake, I believe, right? Because
Hmm.
I didn't play a ton of the original release game,
Yeah.
but I did play the remake. I've played it like 2 or 3 times now, and
Hmm.
I've heard people say, didn't they like open areas up more? Like there's more explore in certain areas of that game
Um,
than there was in the original.
There is like I think like one of the biggest one is the asteroid fight, like where you're like in one area, and it was one of the most annoying parts of the first game. You have like a
Yes.
whole open area segment in the remake, and I think I can't think of it like specifically. And the problem is for me, like obviously like second one has more variety. I'd say even the third one has more variety because you're basically just in one kind of style and vibe, which isn't a problem or anything, because I love that about the first game, is that you're basically
Yes.
mostly in the Ishimura, or Ishimura, however you fucking say it, U.S.
The
Ishimura.
Ishimura.
Yeah, Ishimura. Like you're in that whole area, and I know that the remake is an ongoing game, so there's not really like it's one of the coolest parts, honestly, that it doesn't really
Hmm.
have full cutscenes as much, or it's mostly moving. I could be wrong on some of that, but the first game specifically, I feel a lot more. I don't want to say linear compared to the remake, but
Hmm.
like it was definitely lesser. I just can't think of anything on the top of my head, but I know what you're saying.
I feel like, yeah, if they did a Dead Space 2 remake, they definitely should sprinkle in a little bit more exploration. So even fans of the original have a little bit to,
Yeah.
uncover. I think that would be nice. It would, make the game a little longer too. I think something that they could do
Hmm.
is it would be nice to see maybe some more weapons added.
Oh
Even though
yeah,
Dead Space 2 has tons of weapons
that could work
compared
for that
to,
game
I think
though.
it
Yeah.
I think they could definitely come up with a couple things that would be fun to use that you didn't get the first time around because of,
Would you
it's
change
just
any weapon
dated now. But
modifications? I mean, like
ooh,
the way crap. The whatever it is, the button you click when you're aiming your weapon. The other option, I mean, yes, because I know Dead Space. There was a few things in the original game with the weapons that were like I want to say unnecessary, but like I feel like the pulse rifle is like one of the better ones that they changed, in my opinion, for the remake. That shoots out, I think, like an explosive instead of like shooting in the air in the
yes,
original. I mean, I don't
yes.
remember every weapon as in Dead Space 2 as much as 1 because I played 1 way more, but. Do you think there's anything they could have changed? Maybe.
I feel like as much as it's nice for the pistol to have, it has the horizontal or vertical.
Yeah.
You can change the orientation of the way the laser on it shoots. I think as nice as that is, it would be cool to maybe get like a charger or something on it. If you could like maybe charge up a clip
Oh,
and
that'll be
just
interesting.
unload, like if you could do something like that, because the pistol's great.
Yeah.
You can honestly finish the game using pretty much only the pistol if you want, but
Yeah.
they could maybe add something on that. I think that would be cool because it's changing the orientation is nice, but that's not really a whole lot of alternative for what I feel like you might be able to do with a pistol. Because on the line gun, you can shoot out mines with it,
Mm.
but you can also like rotate it. I don't think you can do anything special with the pistol though. Maybe it just gets like increased damage. I don't remember all of the upgrades on every gun, but
Yeah, that was another
I feel
thing
like the
though.
one.
Oh, you can go,
No, go
sorry.
ahead. I was gonna say my favorite weapon's the Ripper.
Oh yeah.
I love the little chainsaws that you can just hold in the air, or you can shoot them around the room and have them hit everything. That's honestly the most fun weapon in the game for
That's
me.
interesting because that's my least favorite weapon.
I know a lot of people hate
Yeah.
it, but I think the novelty of it is just so funny. Like yeah, I can't really say there's any other game that has a gun that shoots saw blades like that.
It is really cool. It is really cool, but it's like the one weapon where I try to not have in my inventory.
Yeah, it can.
It is
And
really
the
satisfying though.
downside to it, you can honestly get hit with those blades and it hurts you a little bit. So it is kind of a
Yeah.
it hits everything in the room, but it's kind of a mixed bag because if you're taking damage from your own gun, is it really worth it? Like,
Yeah. I 100% get that. I mean, you play on when you play Dead Space 2 and 3. Like I know there's like normal aim controls where it's more like realistic lighting that you're aiming, and then there's like I think the default, the default. I could be wrong. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what it's called. It's like the aiming controls, like when you're aiming your gun at something. You know how in like Resident Evil 4 you have a
oh
light laser thing in Dead
no,
Space. It has one of
no,
those
you're
things.
right.
I was just
I
curious.
just went through this. I just went through this recently because I got it on
Yeah.
Steam, and I was using an Xbox controller. Yeah, I
Hmm.
was using my Xbox controller, and I think it was the weird default setting at first, or it was something I didn't like, and I
Yeah.
had to go through the settings and switch. But I think it was like, what was it? Was it like Southpaw or something? Whatever
It
the
might have been. Yeah.
alternative was from what it started as, I had to choose that, or at least one of them, because whatever it started as, I think I was like healing on when I didn't want to, or like my buttons just weren't oriented right. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I gotta change this. I gotta make it feel like the Dead Space remake I just played.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean there, but I mean like the aiming control, not the controls. It's like, uh, crap. You know how like if you're aiming at a necromorph, you're gonna see the light on top, like actually touching the
Oh,
necromorph. But in the original, I think the default like automatically for 2 and 3, not 1 but 2 and 3, it had like an actual sight thing there that was always on the same exact spot on the screen. It never moved, but it was never like shown on the thing. And it was easier for a lot of people say that it's easier playing that way during gameplay, and that they liked it
mm.
more than the first game. But I was one of those people. I didn't know what my problem was with like the game while I was playing it for the first time. Um, and I was playing it, and it was so annoying because it's like, what is it? Why does it feel so off to me? And it was because it didn't feel like so realistic like onto them like the first game did automatically. So I was just wondering, like, do you prefer that in the second game where it's
It's like a reticle.
yeah, the
Is
reticle.
that
What am I
or like
saying? Yeah, it's like a reticle. Yeah,
no? Yeah,
yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, there's like two options, but like I think the automatic default for Dead Space 2 and 3, they had like a different thing, and you can change that. But I think a lot of people really did prefer that reticle over like the realistic one that 1 and even the remake has. Which again, you can change
Oh,
in 2 and 3, but I think on default it
I
is
think
like
I just
that.
kept that on default. Yeah,
I always thought it
yeah,
was
I
really
think I kept
interesting
that on
because
default.
it kept bothering me the first time I played it, and I was like, "What is wrong?" Because I was obsessed with. I would always call Dead Space 1 a masterpiece. Because I do really love Dead Space 1, the 2008 version, the original. I love it so much, and I love the remake too. Don't get
I
me
need to go
wrong.
back and play it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the remake, and maybe we can get into that again later, or now if you want. I mean, I don't really care what, but
For the original remake.
yeah, the first remake, the 2023 one, if you want to talk about that real
Hmm.
quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we can talk about that. You liked the original more than the remake?
I do, and I'm not a hater of the remake. The remake is my second favorite Dead Space game, but I don't, and it's not even
Mhm.
really. I don't want to consider it for like nostalgia reasons as much either. I think the remake looks beautiful. I think it looks great with its like it's so smooth with not smooth. What is smooth? But like it looks really really good, and for a remake, especially in gameplay and during gameplay,
Mhm.
it's just a beautiful game, and it doesn't feel like as dull, I would say, as the original. The original felt like I don't know. I've always preferred the original's atmosphere, and I do prefer like the gameplay style. And I'm sure you can change the controls in the remake as well. It doesn't bother me as
Mhm.
much. Like the running is obviously different. You have to push down on trigger or whatever. Not trigger. I don't know the fucking controls. I don't know what they're called, but movement style and everything. And you know,
Yeah.
obviously the remake I would say takes a lot from Dead Space 2, so it's going to be probably a little more intense. I think the AI is smarter. I think there's a lot of really good things with the remake. I do prefer the original
Yeah, because
story a bit more. Yeah.
you couldn't orient yourself in the original game like you could in the second one, where you're like
Yeah.
in 3D space and you might be upside down. They added the orient button that will put you automatically right side up. They didn't have that in the first one, and then
Yeah.
I think they put it in the remake.
Yeah, in the remake, it's much more like Dead Space 2 remakes. So that's why I'm kind of, I mean, not 2 remakes. How am
Yeah,
I saying 2 remake? 2, yeah. And so that's why I'm kind of curious, like, what they would
but
add
yeah.
in, like, the remake of 2 if they did that. Because I know Dead Space 2 also added the inclusion of going through vents. You know, there's
Hmm.
several other
Oh
things.
yeah,
And, like, oh, yeah, is it Kinesis? The one where you grab items?
kinesis. Yeah,
Yeah, when you
yeah,
grab
your
items and you
kinesis.
can take it out of the necromorphs and then throw it back at them when they added that in the remake. I thought that was so awesome too. But I
Hmm.
really like the simplistic nature of the original, and I always thought I still to this day think it's the scariest Dead Space one. I don't think it's the most intense, but looking back, it always freaked me out the most. In like the areas that you're always in, it's always the same not the always the same surroundings, but again, it's mostly the same style no matter where you go, aside from you know, a few or more specific areas. But I've always really really liked that. So I was curious, do you like the remake more than the original, or
I mean, I'm kind of biased because I haven't actually played the original all the way through. So at some point, I will have to get that and play that. That's on my list of things to do,
yeah.
and I don't think I'd be able to upload that for the channel necessarily. But I might do that on my own time, just to get the experience of playing that game. But I loved the remake, so I know I would have a good time with it. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave that right now, just up in the air. As I'm gonna wait till I play it first, and then I'll put my final decision down. But
Yeah.
I had a great time with that remake. It just it scratched the Dead Space itch I'd had for a very long time. Because I don't think I'd played even the second one for it had been several years. So
Yeah, and
when
it's like
they
a
announced
big
the
gap
first one
too.
got remade, I was oh yeah, I was pumped. I loved that game.
That's great. I remember when it was announced too, and I was like, I did they do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star again for the remake's first announcement? I remember when like they first showed the
I'm not
necromorph
sure.
coming up from like the ground, and I think it was they were playing the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star thing, which is like, you know, the first trailer for the original Dead Space. I was so
Hmm.
excited, and cut off their limbs and whatever they showed on there. It was like it. It was great. But like, yeah, it's been 10 years between the last Dead Space and the remake, at least, because it was Dead Space 3 was in 2013 and the remake was in 2023. So hopefully we don't have to wait 8 more years for another Dead Space. Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, come on, EA. Get your stuff together. Come on.
Come on, man. Come on. While they're at it, I hope completely irrelevant. Add Alice Asylum. I want to see that. But yeah, Dead Space needs to. I don't know. It's really disappointing. I mean, we can go on and on and on about what EA is doing with the franchise or what they want to
Uh-huh.
handle with Dead Space, but we can talk about our favorite Dead Space games. Dead Space Ignition.
Oh gosh.
I haven't played that, by the way. I've never played that. I want to though. I actually want to.
That's a mobile one, isn't it?
Well, there's Dead Space Sabotage, or iOS it's called too, which was a mobile game. That it's
Oh,
actually weird. I've never heard anyone say anything good about a franchise mobile game until I heard about Dead Space's 2011 Dead Space, because like it's a canon. It's a canon mobile game too. Like I think it's a prequel to Dead Space
yeah,
2, which is interesting. And that's another thing
yeah.
I hate is with mobile games and arcade games is considering them spin-offs or existing. But the problem is a canon Dead Space iOS game exists. It's just really hard to access unless you're trying to emulate it on a fucking phone. Wouldn't it be so weird to like
Yeah.
to port that to PlayStation or something? But it would be sick. Just port
Oh,
it to, like,
it
with a
would play
controller.
weird though.
I
It would
know.
so weird.
I know, but I want to experience it so bad. But iOS, I mean, what am I saying? iOS, Ignition. I think it released in 2010 for was it also on the PS3? I know it was on Xbox 360. You can get it in the store still for the on the Xbox Series X if you want, or Xbox
I
One.
don't know if I've ever heard of that game. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's like a puzzle game with cutscenes that are cartoon animated. They're not even cutscenes really. It's just one picture at a time, like zooming in and
Oh,
out. Like it's the most lamest thing you could see. But there's also Extraction, which came out
that
in
sounds bad.
2000. It is really bad. As far as I know, it looks. Everyone hates it. I can't judge it because I haven't actually played it. But for what it looks really. I think it's only like $5 too, by the way. But Extraction is another game.
Oh,
Have you seen Extraction?
I don't think so.
I think it's like a
That name
rail
doesn't
shooter.
ring a bell for me.
It's a rail shooter that you can
Oh,
get
okay.
connected to Dead Space 2, I think. If you get the limited edition, I think.
Oh, okay. I might have actually played that back in the day
I think it's also a
on
prequel.
Xbox. I just don't remember. Oh, well, hmm.
Well, it came out before Dead Space 2, but I think it's included in like you can't unfortunately you can't get it on like Steam or Xbox anymore through DLC or
Oh, that
anything.
sucks.
I think it's only one of those downloadable codes that you had back in the day if you had like a specific Dead Space 2 thing, which really sucks. But you can get it on the Wii if you're gonna look through a rusty old place that
Dead
some
Space
dude
for the
left over.
Wii.
Yeah, it was like a rail shooter thing, it's actually funny because I think the
Oh, the
characters,
poor Wii.
yeah, I think the characters from that actually kind of move on into Dead Space 2's DLC severed or severed. Sorry,
Mm.
and I think that I don't want to say it's a sequel because I don't know, but I think that's what Extraction kind of was. But I don't. Have you watched the movies, by the way?
I have seen. I've seen at least one of them.
There's Downfall and
Whatever
Aftermath.
one. I think it was Downfall.
Yeah, that was the first one. I
Yeah,
think that was in 2008.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that went on Netflix at one point, so I think I watched it on there.
That's kind of funny though because that was my it's not my introduction to Dead Space, but like whenever I thought about Dead Space, I was pretty young when obviously when whenever with Dead Space, right? Like on the 360, I think I saw it in my cousin's maybe, and it wasn't the freakiest thing. It was more like I think it was Aftermath is what I saw at Walmart because Aftermath has the cover of like the marker. It has a marker and it's pointed at an
Ooh.
eye. Yeah, it's pointed at an
Oh,
eye
that's cool.
resembling like Dead Space 2's eyeball scene,
Yeah.
which that's where I got it from at first, where I was like, oh my god, like this is gross, you know, and like that's like kind of nostalgic for me in that sense. But well, I'm actually curious what they'd do with the eyeball scene in the remake. I wonder what if they'd make some kind of change to that.
Oh, well, first of all, they would probably, if they're gonna remake that game, they would make that part gory as hell if you mess up and it doesn't go on target.
Yeah,
It would be a mess. But
in realistic
no,
detail
it
this
would
time.
it would be iconic to see that scene fresher with some new paint on it. Just in a modern day engine. That would
Yeah.
be wild to experience that. And like, I don't know, whenever we'd get that game, like 2030.
They should do it. They should do another
But
layer of it.
But it would be cool. Yeah, that scene, it's such an iconic scene in Dead Space because it's horrifying to play that part. You have to like keep it on target
I
and your
know.
eye keeps moving the whole time.
I mean, that's like the most. I mean, and that's the thing though. Like when you fail. I mean, I guess it depends on the person, but like when you fail, like it's all obviously gross. But the grossest part will always be when you succeed. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
the grossest part when you actually get
Mm-hmm.
it and you just don't want to do it
Oh
though.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
obviously
it's
wonderful.
still pretty like it's still pretty gruesome even when you do get it right cuz yeah, you have that like stream of blood coming out of your eye afterwards. It's like, "Oh, okay." Like guess
Uh
I'm just going to be blind in one eye half the game now.
and I think it's even more iconic when it's talking in the background like stick a needle in your eye, whatever the saying is. It's so cool though.
Mhm.
Uh
Yeah, you've got like Nicole talking to you the entire time or the ghost of Nicole.
Yeah, the remake's just staring right above you, just like get that thing in your eye. No, I think it'll be. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I really hope if they do a remake of Dead Space 2 that they add a lot more layers when it comes down to like, because it's more than just like I'm trying to think. I know there's like what was it? Is it a dishwasher scene where there's like a baby crying and it's like moving around and shit?
Oh, yeah. That's pretty early in the game too. Like one of the
Yeah,
first few chapters, you walk into a room and there's a washing machine going and it's spinning and spinning and you just hear a baby thumping around inside crying and you're like,
yeah.
this is this is something different.
And the exploding baby when
Kind
it
of messed up.
Yeah, the exploding baby when it crawls up to its mother and like she hugs it and it explodes. I feel like we
Oh,
should have
yeah.
like more I mean obviously out of pocket but like, unsuspecting to like older fans too, right? Just like add on to like the disturbingness. I want to see more of this because I don't think that I mean that wasn't basically the main point of Dead Space 1 anyway, and I'm not saying it is for the second one, but I feel like a lot of the second game adds a lot of risks to it. I don't want to. I mean, maybe for. I don't want to say for modern day. I don't know what they do. I mean, I'd hope they keep all of that stuff. I don't want them to change anything, but like, I want them to add, not necessarily psychological moments in it, but like just like you can create more iconic moments with the
Oh
remake,
yeah.
which I think would be great. I mean, I can't think of any off the
I
top of my
think you
head,
could
but
they could definitely fit some in. They might have to move a few things around, but they could
yeah,
create some more disturbing moments. Yeah, like you said, with also that scene with the baby going up to its mother and exploding. Like, first of all, it's horrifying to see that. But second
yeah.
of all, you're like you've never seen a baby in the game at that point, and then you're like, oh, they explode. Great.
I know
Like
it's crazy.
they could definitely they'd find a way to fit some more of those moments in. I'd hope they would at least. But there is one last thing I
Hmm.
did want to mention. So Dead Space 2 did have a multiplayer.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever play the multiplayer in Dead Space 2?
I missed out. I've never played any Dead Space multiplayer co-op or anything like that before, so I'm
Okay.
unaware.
So there's no co-op or anything. That would have been
Yeah.
different. That's where Dead Space 3 came in, where you could have co-op like that. But multiplayer, it was you and a few other people as basically engineers in your suits,
Yeah.
and other people would be on the other team as necromorphs. It
Oh
was kind of
wow.
like you remember like Left 4 Dead? It was kind of like a Left 4 Dead lobby where you'd have some people playing as the zombies and the other people were the survivors. It was kind of like that but in Dead Space.
Yeah.
I think that would be so much fun on modern consoles. I think people would be all over a multiplayer like that. Super gruesome too. Like I don't think there's just not a lot of games that have that like 360 feel anymore, but a
Yeah.
couple of them have been coming back. Like Gears of War getting remade,
Yeah.
that's gonna have an online to it, so that's basically like a 360 game again. Space Marine 2, that played like a 360 game online. Like
Yeah.
there is a market of people who do want to play those type of multiplayer games online. So that's like an aspect I didn't even really give a whole lot of thought to, but I think a multiplayer on a remake would go so hard. People would be all over that. I would play hours of that.
I would agree with you, and I think that kind of adds a little bit more to I don't want to say it adds to the fan base or anything, but like I mean it give more initiative to keep playing the game, and you'll see a lot more
Yeah.
higher charts and players. Do you know how many monsters you could be able to play as in Dead Space 2's multiplayer? Was it all of them or?
I think it was kind of like it cycled through, so you would Spawn In is a different one every time, but I believe it was like the full roster of necromorphs. I think it was like you could get the dude with the exploding arm on one run, and then you could get like just a standard necromorph on the next one, and then you could get the spitters the time after that, or the the babies that explode. I think you could even get those. But there were lots of combinations of things. I don't know if you could choose it though. I think it was random.
That is really cool. I missed out. I
It's
missed out on
different
that.
because, and it was tough on Necromorph side
Yeah.
because the people like would all huddle together and it would be hard to break them up. But if you could like slowly pick one of them out of the group at a time, it really got fun. Like it was fun from that perspective too, to actually be like hunting someone down, as opposed to being the one sitting there with a flashlight in the dark looking, because you didn't get as much visibility, I believe, as an engineer as you did like as a necromorph. They could see a lot better,
Yeah.
and I think they could see like engineers through the walls from like a distance too, whereas the engineers can't see anything until it's like right up on them.
That's really interesting. I wish
Yeah,
I wish. Do
it'd
they
be
still have
cool.
it up?
I don't think servers for that game are up anymore, to be
Yeah,
honest.
because a lot of older 360 stuff or PS3 stuff, a lot of them are pretty much
Yeah.
down, which really sucks. But I mean, I get it. But
Hmm.
man, that
It's
would be
sad.
cool. that is that
It's
is
sad.
sad. I do want them to port Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 though to PlayStation 4 and 5 because I know that's like part of their program is like I know they're doing PS1 classics and all this other stuff, but it would be really nice just to have like because they're doing I mean, they got to port more PS3. I don't want to just be streaming, these things. I hate the idea of streaming digitally streaming or whatever, needing Wi-Fi or whatever. I want the same a good amount of quality and people can finally check those games out. But like, if they are going to remake it, I guess maybe the better marketing strategy would probably remake them first. I guess, but I hope they at least port the first game then, and then they can port the second game after they hopefully remake the second one. But I know it's just
Yeah,
PlayStation, but there's a lot of people on there.
Sony's kind of riding their own wave right now of
Yeah,
stuff that they're doing. They're all over the place. So I don't know if they necessarily care too much to get something like that done, but it would be nice. I'd love to see
yeah,
all
yeah.
of the original games on that, like, yeah, old Game Pass, or like basically on the PlayStation Store too. That'd be great because they've got a lot of stuff. Like they just put like Resident Evil 2 and 3 original
Yeah,
on
yeah.
there, didn't they?
Yeah, they're going to do that
Yeah.
in the summer. We're not sure exactly when. I'm guessing that
Oh,
it is
okay.
in August, but I could be wrong.
Hasn't happened yet. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be cool though. I really want to go play original Resident Evil 2. That would
Oh
be
yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be great.
I love those games, and it's like one of my biggest complaints with I don't know. I mean, like I want especially like the Silent Hill games to be ported. I wish all of them, and I wish all the spin-offs for all the spin-offs that were PlayStation games. Like if only every single PlayStation game was compatible to put on there, which is like exactly why like I've cried over multiple times that like we haven't gotten Dead Space Ignition ported over there, which is like the big. No, no, I'm kidding. No, but I do definitely agree. I want them to get ported for sure, and Extraction as well. I'm unironically, I unironically mean that I didn't cry over it, but it would be definitely nice to see. I get and the DLC of course, the DLC because I don't want them to pretend that doesn't exist. But
Yeah, man, game preservation's a big thing right now. Like I don't want to start
yeah,
seeing things disappear just because they don't want to
I know I freak
bring
out
it up
over
to
it.
the current generation.
Yeah, I freak out about it all the time, and it really bothers me. Which I actually had another question about Dead Space 3 real quick. If they remade
Yeah.
it, do you expect them to actually merge Dead Space 3 and the DLC Awakened, considering like they're pretty much like if you don't have that connection, right? They would have like a DLC connected to it if they did that, which I would have a problem with because I don't like stories in general having a cliffhanger and like, oh, it's you finish the story kind of, but also not really technically for Dead Space 3 specifically. But it's pretty connected with that. I feel like if they changed it, you probably wouldn't really matter as much. They alter probably a lot of it, but like if they did that, how would you feel if they merged both together?
I mean, they probably will do that. Most
Yeah.
likely. That seems like the more reasonable thing is put all the content on one package, even though it came out separately. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, I think they're probably just going to do that anyway. I wouldn't be opposed to it because why not? It's the whole game. I feel like they do that with most games that get remastered nowadays. If it had extra content to it, they'll just go ahead and throw it all together. But
Oh yeah, I mean like story element wise, like they wouldn't have it like an extra thing that's free or anything. Like it'd just be one entire campaign on its own together. Because like
yep.
my biggest problem, like I could definitely see something like Dead Space 2 Severed being a DLC later on after the remake. Like they would remake Severed as well, but it's not
Hmm.
important to the story, so it wouldn't matter to be connected in the same campaign. The problem with Dead Space 3 is that like Awaken really does like continue on within that, and I know it leaves off kind of in a cliffhanger anyway, and we don't know what the fuck's gonna happen with Dead Space 4. But I mean, in general, like I think it's very important that they do that. Otherwise, if they don't do that, don't do it at all, and just alter
Yeah.
again, yeah, just alter Dead Space 3 in general, and don't have a DLC, and make it some kind of continuation. And finally, we get Dead Space 4, hopefully, with its own stuff. Hopefully,
Do you think there will be a Dead Space 4 one day?
hopefully in my lifetime. I hope to see it in my lifetime, of course, or our lifetime, I should say. If EA comes back to it, I mean, I don't really, I don't know. I really don't know. I think they could do a lot of unique stuff with it, but like, I don't really think that they're going to make it. Honestly, after Dead Space 2 and 3, don't if they don't get a remake. I mean, if they do get a remake, I could see Dead Space 4 happening in the future, but I also don't think that they'll do it after one's remake. For whatever reason, I just feel like that wouldn't be as much of a possibility, because like the thing was like with Resident Evil, what doesn't really bother them as much when they didn't have 2 and 3 like the originals on modern platforms, because I know they ported the HD versions of like Resident Evil 1 remake or Resident Evil 4 and all that stuff like to modern platforms, and they were just going to
Yeah.
remake 2, 3, and then 4, even though the original 4 is on consoles, thank God. But I mean, I feel like the thing that works well with Resident Evil is that like it is very much a variety, and you don't really have to play one over the other most of the time. Sometimes I mean, they obviously have like continuing stories, but it isn't as important as something like Dead Space, where it's like, yeah, you could technically maybe think about like playing them separately, but there is an ongoing story with Isaac Clarke as the main character, pretty much in a way.
Yeah,
I think it's very
he's the
important.
man in Dead Space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he he's the thread that holds it all together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like they need those pieces in order to finally I don't want to say like come up with a conclusion with Dead Space 4. Like I'd be 100% open if they made like I'm not asking for more sequels as in like lesser quality or anything, but I do want the franchise to continue, because I think there's a lot more to explore, and Dead Space 2 itself kind of proved that.
I mean, they could go with somebody different as a new protagonist. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be Isaac
exactly.
Clarke. Like they could switch off of his story because I mean, what Resident Evil has to fall back on is its long list of different protagonists. So
Yeah.
it's constantly changing who is the person who's the main point of view of the game by, also continuing the story and just, adding them all together. But you got your Chris, you got your Leon, you got your Claire, you got your Jill. Like there's lots of people who just like pop up sporadically throughout that series for the
Yeah.
first like 6 games. So they had lots of room to, continue pumping those games out, whereas Dead Space does only have one main character. So it's like the story's a little bit more confined as opposed to what Resident Evil can do.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Silent Hill is also a great example of that as well. But like the thing with with Dead Space is that like I I don't know. I mean, we can go on and on and on. We've already talked about like what are the what is the possibilities of them continuing on in the nearby future of this stuff, considering what their Motive Studio right now is handling, along with like maybe other issues that they might fall under. And I really do hope that Dead Space does get something in the nearby future, whether it's Dead Space 2's remake or ends up being Dead Space 4 for whatever reason.
I'm thinking we'll
Yeah,
see something more Dead Space in our lifetime. I'm very hopeful.
I
If
sure
we
hope
don't, that'd
so.
just be a tragedy. It'd be a tragedy.
As long as it's not audio logs that they post on Spotify, but then
Oh
then
my
I'll be
gosh.
happy. Hey guys, you want to hear more about what happens later on in the games? Well, I mean, you can listen to our podcast that we're hosting, episode 1 of what happened to Isaac Clarke after Dead Space 3. No,
My gosh.
just grab like a shitty actor to play him, not even the same actor.
Oh, that'd be horrible. No.
What do you mean? It would be perfect. It's exactly what we wanted, right?
Ugh.
It's in such a strange situation. I mean, again, I really do hope the best for Dead Space as a franchise. Because I want to see more. It has a very passionate fan base. I mean, like it has a lot of people there
Oh
that
yeah.
watch it. Like whenever it's not even like necessarily like when I posted that Dead Space video, like it did get like a lot of, and like even like when I mentioned Dead Space in another video, it didn't get like a lot of views, but like it got a greater amount of views than like the other videos around it, right? Like I know that's like a community
Oh
thing
yeah.
where just get recommended, but like if you look up Dead Space in general, a lot of people like they get a lot of people look at that stuff, like hundreds of thousands. Even
It's
recently.
not the following. It's not the following that some other franchises have, but it
Yeah.
does have a following. Like it's definitely there. There are people who love Dead Space. I've heard several big name people on the internet who love Dead Space and were all but thrilled when there was a Dead Space remake that came out in 23. That I got a lot of people playing that game again. So it's definitely there. There's people who love that game.
Yeah, it definitely has a passionate audience. I mean, like it kind of shows it too with like the hype around, like I don't want to say the exact hype, but like I know Callisto Protocol like ended up not being like as great as a game as a lot of people hoped it would be, like really disappointing. But a lot of people were like really excited for that game because they were thinking in their head, this is the same person who like directed the original Dead Space, or like these people are making a game that's very similar and akin to Dead Space, and that was
Hmm.
one of the biggest like audience grabbers, was thinking about that. Not just like it looked great or anything, like, but a lot of people are thinking, hey, this is a lot like Dead Space. I want to check it out for that sole reason. And I think that shows a lot. And I know that's a different game. I mean, it's not in the same franchise, obviously, but like the idea that like people are excited for something else that isn't even Dead Space for the sole reason of Dead Space. Again, I don't want to say like that's the whole reason for Callisto or anything, but a
No,
lot of people are thinking
you're
about that.
totally you're totally right on that. I mean, that just shows that there is an active fan base who want to see more.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. It's definitely noteworthy just to I think a lot more people should just keep talking about Dead Space. I mean, I don't want to end up like making a lot of stuff about Dead Space or anything. I'm not asking for people to start creating their own channels about Dead Space or something. But you mentioned something really good in your video that I really liked when you were talking about Dead Space in one of your videos. That in general, I think the community should definitely be pushing a lot more towards that in a positive light. That we really do want to have a future to see for Dead Space, because it's not like it's some indie little franchise or anything that like died off or anything. Sure, it kind of like died off after 3, or at least like the reception did, of course, but like it's so well done. Like these games, like they're so well done, especially in the recent remake, and to kind of just throw that all away and just be like, okay, well, we're gonna push this off for years and years from now, it is really disappointing. And it makes me sad if that is the mindset, which hopefully it isn't. But if we don't see anything in years and years from now, then it's like, I don't want to say what was really the point, but like what makes it so special is that this is a unique IP that no other game franchise has held up to this day. In the simple idea of cutting off the limbs, like that, just that idea alone was so unique and made up for a franchise. Obviously, it has several other things that makes the franchise great, of course, but it's a horror icon. It's a horror icon
Yeah,
already.
it's basically inspired a big portion of not just horror games, but different kinds of like third person games
Oh yeah.
after its inception. So to say that it doesn't like have a mark on gaming, like that'd just be ignorant. It's one of the biggest influences I think to what we have as current games now.
it's one of the scariest as well. Like, I mean, like the way it
Yeah.
goes on with things, and like, I know some people found it back in the day to be kind of annoying with like, oh, it's making this huge music or loud music when like something's going after you. But that was genuinely really scary at the time. Like, you have something running at you, and it was
Hmm.
very intense even for the first game itself. But like, it's made a name up for itself in the first two games alone. And I don't know. I don't want it to be completely let go because they created a universe with the first three games in general. And even with like the third game, it expanded a lot on it, whether people liked it or not. But there's a whole universe there that can be explored, and they always introduce new enemies and monsters, which I think is the coolest thing you can do, because I think a variety of anything in any game franchise is very important, as well as variety of locations. Because, like, Dead Space 4 could
Yeah.
really be anything. Dead Space 4 could be a new iconic game that feels completely different from like the first three. Not completely different exactly, but like a whole new, all these new locations, completely different variety, maybe even new weapons in general that people end up loving. But it's still the core basics of what Dead Space really is, and I think that would be great, and I think a lot of people will remember it for that if they do that for the fourth
And then
game.
it would really be like Resident Evil, where Resident Evil 4 basically re-brought back the franchise. So it would
Yeah,
have even more things in common.
yeah. I mean, that's like my favorite thing though with like anything in general. So like, I'm always pushing for a variety. So I know like there's people that might hate like Resident Evil Village for kind of going out there because, oh well, it's a biohazard, and now you're kind of mixing and merging it with like the freaking mold into werewolves and vampires. And I know I know it's kind
Yeah.
of weird of me, but I do really love them doing that, because I said, like, they kind of already went all out with all this stuff. Why not like just like make really unique stuff with it and like do your own thing,
Yeah.
create folklore, like whatever it might be. And I'm not asking for Dead Space to turn into that or anything. I'm just saying, like, with what they have, they can do like so much, like the planets and everything. Like they can go. You don't need to fly spaceships or anything, but you can go all out without being complete action like Dead Space 3 did, and create your own horror moments. Like, again, Dead Space 2 is it's not my favorite, but it has some of the most iconic moments, again, that a lot of people who don't even know much about Dead Space, they know those moments. They know what you're talking
Hmm.
about, even though they don't know anything about Dead Space. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. The tagline for Dead Space 2 when it came out, the trailers for it, remember? It was like your mom will hate this
Yeah, I
game.
remember
Like
that. I remember that. That was so funny. Some people found it like really cringe at the time, but I thought it was really funny. Just because it
I
was.
thought it was hilarious as a 17-year-old because it's like, oh yeah, mom will hate it. I gotta get it.
That's great. That's great. I mean, yeah, if they came back to that, that would be also awesome to see
Uh,
with what they wanted to do with that. But we can go on and on about like the franchise in general. I mean, it would be obviously nice to see maybe a remake of 2 or 3, and then finally 4, or if they came up with more animated movies that were pretty cool. I mean, I'd be down for that. Or spin-offs, spin-offs again, like kind of going off and branching off maybe with the same engine and everything, but
that would be
in,
tight.
yeah, different stories and stuff to tell, because expanding the universe, I think, is like, I mean, expanding the IP in general. I mean, Resident Evil, like, I feel like Resident Evil wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for like Resident Evil 7. I know it's like a big take because, like, I know obviously the older games were big and Resident Evil 4 was so big, but like the community now, if they didn't have all these games it's launched lately, like a lot of people, they love these games, like these modern newer games and everything, and like, oh, that's the thing they mostly talk about, like in the community, at least from what I've seen, they mostly talk about the newer stuff rather than like, and I get it, okay, you're gonna have newer stuff, obviously they're gonna be more focused on the newer stuff, but like, it's not really just that they're newer stuff, is that they're great games, at least in my opinion, and a lot of the fans' opinions. And like, there's a lot to think about. You can talk about, oh, have you played Resident Evil 7 Biohazard or Resident Evil Code Veronica or something? Like, it's not just talking about one game and the remake of that game. It's talking about like multiple, because there's a huge distinction between, or Silent Hill, again, Silent Hill, for example. That's a great
Yeah.
example of like, there's different games, and it's a huge variety. But I do hope that Dead Space does more expanding with that stuff because I feel like it could be even bigger at this point. I think it's already pretty big enough to be completely fair for only being like what 3 mainline games and a remake of one of them, you know?
Oh yeah.
And I think that's really special, and I do really hope that they continue on with that. I know I'm going on rambling for a little bit, but yeah, do you have anything else to say for here? Or
No, I think we've covered a lot of Dead Space.
we certainly have, and like again, it's also special for the fact that it's in space. It's not always on ground Earth all the time. You're doing different things, and it's unique for that thing alone. And I love space, so give me more Dead Space, EA. But yeah, with that being said, thank you, SlyBlackFox, for being on the channel. I'm really glad that I have you here talking to you because I really enjoyed this discussion, talking about Dead Space. I think it's a really good franchise that we are both very passionate about, and I learned a little bit about it today from you two about the multiplayer as well as you playing it back then, which I didn't have at the time because I wasn't playing those games during that time period. But yeah, you'll find SlyBlackFox's channel down in the description of the video as well as the pinned comment down below. With that being said, I don't really know if we have much else to say here. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. That would be really cool. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.